What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode here on the Lure Lab, a part of the Serious Angler Network. And as always, I'm your host, the Captain, Andrew Full. And it is post iCast week, right? Like iCast just happened, bunch of awesome products were dropped, and a ton of them we can't wait to get our hands on. Some we may already have our hands on and just haven't talked about them yet. But it's ICAST is always an important time for the fishing industry. It seems kind of convoluted these days, as you know, there's a lot of social media bashing on companies copying baits, etc. And unfortunately, fishing is a copycat world. Sports are a copycat world. It stinks. Yes, I'm going to go there, and I'm sure I might even get some hate for this thought, but fishing is an ever evolving sport like football. So I'm going to use a football analogy. If, you know, when teams started becoming pass heavy, right? What happened in the league? Everybody started becoming pass heavy. And when they go run heavy and one team is dominating with the run, aka the wildcat formation that Miami busted out, I don't know, a dozen years ago on the New England Patriots, and everyone did wildcat for a couple years. It's gonna happen. And sometimes imitation is the ultimate form of flattery, correct? Yes. So, but also sometimes imitation brings us better products than the original. So I'm excited to see all these baits. I'm excited to get a lot of them in my hands to try out. There's a lot of awesome stuff that came out. So look at the positive. The fishing industry is growing. There's a ton of cool stuff every year. And I actually get excited to see the innovation that is happening currently. So, the forward facing sonar, etc., and flipping baits. And there were some awesome flipping baits that came out that I can't wait to look at and try. And specifically, I'm calling out NetBait at the moment. I believe it was with Hex Claws or Hexclad technology. That stuff looks sweet with the net bait fuel infused technology into it. But anyways, let's skip ahead. We're talking about our episode today, right? So, in the technique we're talking about is one that anybody can throw and catch fish on, and I feel like it is long overdue to talk about the Gary Yamamoto Senko, the entryway for almost all of us bass fishermen into the world of bass fishing, the way we fell in love, hanging out at the farm pond or the local lake down the road, or going out on a bass boat for the first time and just aimlessly casting a wacky rig Senko around. And today we're going to talk about ways to rig it. So there's multiple options and sizes of Senkos. I think we're going to dive into that a little bit. I'll just touch on it now. There's 4 sizes that anyone and everyone should probably have in their boat. Specifically, if you live up north, that's 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now they do make 7s, I do believe, as well. I have not found a place for those, but we're going to talk about when I use each one of the sizes, how to rig it, why I rig it the way I do, etc. And we're also going to dive into expensive and budget-friendly rod setups in line, braid to fluorocarbon, all the shooting shebang. So stay tuned and let's dive right into the Gary Yamamoto Senko. So first, I want to start off with like a little bit of a personal story, and it's not the bait that got me hooked on bass fishing. Unfortunately, that was a chug bug in my very first ever tournament. But I do remember as I progressed through my first year of actually like tournament bass fishing, the Senko did start to find its place in my arsenal. And everybody loves a good wacky rig Senko. And for those that don't know what a wacky rig Senko is, and this is where the beginner side of Senko fishing comes in. You can literally take a hook. It doesn't matter. We'll say a jig head, right? You can take your Senko. You can take a weighted hook, and this is not the one I would use. But you could take a jig head with a weighted hook and literally go through the center line of this bait, and you have a weighted wacky Senko. Or you can do an EWG. I know guys that use EWGs. I know guys that use like a drop shot octopus style hook, and you can cast this out anywhere from pond to lake. Find your red color, and you're going to put a bunch of bass in the boat, rigging it this way. But personal story, I remember one of the first good skips I ever had with a Senko was on my spinning rod. Is honestly a junky Walmart combo. I think it was like $40. Berkeley cherry wood, even with some crappy spinning reel and straight fluorocarbon, which is a terrible idea if you don't know how to get twist out of a spinning reel. But skipping it out underneath this dock and watching the fish literally eat it as it's falling and swim and wrap me around all these dock poles, and I broke the fish off. So the premise of this episode is to teach beginners that you can catch fish on Senkos everywhere, but also there's going to be some advanced things in here that will help you not break them off and get wrapped around a dock pole. And I'll tell you, to this day, I almost never fish a wacky Senko, or I almost never skip a wacky Senko under docks anymore. I'm a Texas rig guy, and I'll go into that reasoning in a little bit. But size of the Senko, covered at 3-inch, 4-inch, 5 and 6-inch. 3-inch, you can Ned rig it or rig it on a drop shot. And we have a drop shotting rigging video that we did an episode a couple weeks ago. So I believe it was with the it was with the flatworm. Sorry. So with the flatworm, you can go back and you can find ways to rig a Senko through that flatworm episode. That's first, knows it, you can wacky it, works perfect. Find your favorite drop shot hook. And Ned rig, everyone knows what a Ned rig is. So wacky Senko, we just talked about with the jig head. You'll find your bait, and it's going to have like this bumper thing right here in the middle. I can't remember what it's called, and I apologize. I'm absolutely exhausted from my week of guiding. And all you're going to do is find the center line in the little bubble, mid belly bubble. You rig it just like that. One side of the Senko is going to be thinner. One side is going to be a fat head. So this bait is going to fall and shimmy and do all kinds of crazy things. Bass can't resist a wacky Senko when you fish it out in weeds, or if you're beginner skipping it underneath docks, you're at your local pond and you have scattered grass and some bass in there. You can literally take this with a standard like G finesse hybrid shaped tournament grade Gamakatsu G finesse size 4/0, 3/0. Rig it the same way and cast it out without a weight. It's going to fall a little bit slower, and you're going to put a lot of fish on the bank doing it that way. So that is the wacky Senko, right? Now the Neko rig is the same thing. You're going to take your favorite G finesse hook if that's what you want to use. I use the VMC. I have it pulled up here. Let me share my screen. I use the VMC a lot. So the VMC, I use the Neko hook and the weedless Neko hook. And the Neko hook is going to be without the weed guard in open water, less grass. Maybe you're throwing it on rock piles. And obviously the weedless Neko hook, you want to throw that into the areas that have a little bit more grass. And you can get the VMC Neko weight as well if you'd like. It doesn't matter your nail weight. You always kind of want to go smaller or go bigger. And you have two different options of nail weights. You have this tungsten nail weight that you can slide in, or you have the cone head style that you can get from some tackle manufacturers make it. I poured my own with do it molds. And for visualization purposes, I'm going to grab this big one here. And you're going to take your Senko or stick bait, whichever one you like. And I just want to reiterate, the Senko, it's a stick bait. You can literally buy any version of stick baits that you like and do all of these rigging options with. I just personally, I guess I'm a Yamamoto brat, and you'll see I have tons of bags of Gary Yamamoto Senkos in the old packages because the ones I like the way they fall, and they just catch a lot of fish. So take your tungsten nail weight or your lead nail weight that you poured, and you find the fat end of the Senko. And all you do is make sure it's going in straight. And you can literally push it in like so. And what that does is that causes this head to fall down. You rig it wacky style about right there. And when it falls, hook point up, it'll fall. This will wag, and this takes the weight down. So the bait stands kind of like this on the bottom as you drag it. You can even do that in ponds with really light weight and allow that bait to fall a little bit faster, a little bit differently than your buddies that you're fishing with, and help you put more bass on the bank. Now, my favorite way to fish the Senko or stick bait is going to be Texas rigged. I almost never ever wacky rig them unless I'm fishing it Neko styled out in the grass. Let me see if I can get these hook out. I should have did this beforehand. Sorry. So Texas rig is going to be the same deal. You're going to take your fat end of your Senko. You're going to go in roughly about halfway up the barb with this G finesse. Pull through. And that hook will come down to about halfway in that bubble. You find where it is. Push the bait back. That way you can rig it straight. You're just going to text pose it right there. Now, you could weightless Texas rig it or Texas rig it with a weight and peg it. That's going to be the way I fish the Senko 99.9% of the time. Quarter ounce down to a 16th, depending on how the fish wanted to fall. If you have a wind, no wind, if you're fishing docks, or you just need a really slow presentation, I'm going to throw that on casting gear. You can throw this on spinning gear, Texas rig. That's why I like this hybrid hook. It's a little bit more thin wired. It's nano coated, so when one grabs it, it's super sticky. You don't need an overly stout rod to really drive that hook home to hook more fish and land more fish. And now lastly is going to be your Bubba shot rigging or drop shot rigging with the 5-inch Senko. So what you do is you take your G Finesse hybrid worm hook. You're in Texas rig it, but you're going to tie it onto your line like a drop shot. You're going to take your 5/8 ounce to 1 ounce drop shot weight. You're going to rig it anywhere from, say, 24 inches below the bait to 3 to 4 feet, depending on how deep you think the bass are sitting in the grass. And you can actually almost punch with this rig, throw it into thicker grass mats in the holes that are around them or sparser, and it'll drop and that bait will hang up there above. And the Senko, as you twitch, will kind of pop up and that tail will start moving around. And that's a sneaky way to get a ton of bites when throwing a Senko. So make sure you add that one into your arsenal. And the Senko stick bait speaks for itself when it comes to how many fish in the testament of anglers, right? Like look at John Cox. John Cox has won hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, throwing a Texas rig or wacky general, Berkeley Power Baits general, Max Scent general. And to name off a few stick baits that are very similar to the Yamamoto Senko, if you're new to bass fishing or you just want to learn about other ones that are out there. Some of my favorites are obviously the Gary Yamamoto, X-Zone, the Center True Stick if you want to wacky rig it, or I believe it's Center True Stick. Is that it? Let me double check that. Sorry. I just drew a blank. Center. Yeah, it is the True Center Stick. So I was close. Yum Dinger, another big one. And then one that guys might not think about all too much that you may want to check out is the Big Bite Baits. And let's see what the name on that one is. I don't know why, but there's something about that scent with Big Bite baits that just help you get a lot more bites. Man, I am drawing a big old blank right now. And now Big Bite Baits, stick bait. I apologize for this. Well, on Omnia, all they have is the Sensation Skinny Stick, which is 5 inches. It's kind of like a Pro V Senko. So that would be something that you'd want to drop shot. But yeah. But anyways, so when and where to fish these? Wacky Senko is going to be out in the grass, slick, calm, sunny days. Specifically if you're Neko rigging it. Texas rig, I'm almost always fishing that in the grass, but I will skip it underneath docks. You can fish it in reeds, toolies, lily pads. Like, it's probably one of the most universal baits that you can fish. You can cast it out and drag it. You can pitch it 10 feet from the boat. You can plunk it. That's why I like the Texas rigged Senko with a bullet weight and pegging it, because it gives me way more universal options to catch a lot of fish, specifically when they're finicky. And then the Bubba shot, which is the last style that I talked about rigging. So rods and reels, expensive rods and reels. So my Senko setup for the Texas rig with the bullet weight peg, I use a Alpha Angler Zilla 2.0 with the Zillion SVTW 8:5 to 1 gear ratio with 17-pound fluorocarbon. That is going to be one of your more expensive casting rods. I think the Zilla is somewhere around 250 without looking at it. And then obviously the Daiwa Zillion 8.5 is going to be around $370. For a inexpensive casting setup, you're going to look at probably like an Abu Garcia Veritas, like a 7-foot medium or medium heavy, obviously staying with 17-pound fluorocarbon. And then the casting reel, I'm going to go Shimano SLX for $99. I think that's going to be a good reel to put on that Abu Garcia Veritas. That's probably going to put you around like 230 for a decent setup to get you out there catching a lot of fish. And it's going to be super sensitive. Dobbins Fury as well would be another really good option for you. I believe they have a 7-foot medium heavy rod that would work perfect for casting and fishing a Senko around. Spinning rods. Personally, I use the Alpha Angler wrench, which is a 7-foot like medium heavy. And then I'm going to use a Daiwa Tatula MQ size 3000 with a 15-pound braid to an 8-pound or 10-pound fluorocarbon, depending on the grass that I'm fishing, or if I'm fishing up around docks with metal pilings, I just need a little bit more line strength. And then like a budget-friendly spinning option or budget-friendly spinning rod. Once again, like I love the Abu Garcia Veritas line. It's one of the first rods I've ever owned, and every year they pack more features into them. They get lighter, they get more sensitive. I just feel like you can't beat it for under $150. And budget-friendly spinning reel, I'm gonna go real cheap on you guys. It is the Daiwa Regal, I believe. It's a $70 reel. It's kind of purpley. I've been using them with my clients because I burned out a couple older black Tatulas, 2,500 and 3,000. So I needed to buy a couple reels and a pinch, and they've held up pretty well. So that's going to be my budget reel that I would recommend going out and putting together. That combo will probably cost you right around $200 out the door, and you're able to go catch a lot of big bass and ponds or out of the back of the boat or even the front of the boat if you just don't want to spend a lot of money on your fishing gear, which is fine, especially when it comes to buying these at like $8 a bag. You burn through a ton of them. So, well, I hope everyone enjoyed this week's episode of the Lure Lab. Make sure you tune in next week. Hopefully our guest is able to get on. We've had to reschedule with him a few times here, but that's the way it is. ICAST week, heart of the tournament season, which will be wrapping up soon here. So we should have a lot more guests coming on so we can talk shop and get some awesome ideas coming at you guys for ways to catch more bass. Pardon me. And as always, if you're new here on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment down below if you've ever thrown a stick bait or you need to learn how to throw a stick bait. We're always open in our DMs on our Instagram pages and Facebook. So shoot us over a message at any time if you have any questions. If you're on your favorite podcast platform and it allows you to leave a review on the MP3 side, please do so. We appreciate that, and it helps this podcast be seen by more people who love to go bass fishing. Until next week, we will see you there.